what is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Hyperreality is an inability of consciousness to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality. What is real and what is fiction are blended together so that there is no clear distinction between where one ends and the other begins. It allows the co-mingling of physical reality with virtual reality and human intelligence with artificial intelligence. Targeted individuals find themselves thrust into this new reality against their will and without their permission. They are non-consensual test subjects for a mind control weapons platform that is currently being rolled out throughout the world.
Being a non-consensual human test subject is related to the CIA's MK-Ultra behavior modification program that began in the 1950s.
I have been and continue to be experimented on against my will and without my permission as a human test subject and as a targeted individual forced into trauma-based mind control programs.
We have all gone to people who took an oath to protect and serve, who have been in commissions to investigate the unethical treatment of citizens in human experimentations. We have been denied protection and service and have been ignored by commission after commission. Enough is enough. This is America. We're supposed to be better than this. We all know what Hitler did to the Jewish people. When this all comes out, what the American government has done to their own people, it will make Hitler look like a saint. If some of you didn't get some morals, thank you, but I'll finish. Well, then you don't understand what we're going through.
Thousands of Americans are currently suffering from chemical, electromagnetic, psychological, and physical torture with no government relief or laws. Our servicemen, prisoners, and thousands of unknowing, innocent civilians are currently being lamed, tormented, and tortured as a result of military research, medical research, pharmaceutical research, physiological and psychological studies that have virtually destroyed participants' sanity, physical well-being, reputation, and privacy.
He said that that was very common, and that they were using microwaves because they had taken really advanced EEG images of people in different emotional states, mapped those digital brainwave signatures, emotional clusters, of people feeling different emotional states. They said that they can take those digital brainwave signatures, piggyback on a certain bandwidth of microwaves as a carrier wave, and they can target people worldwide without need for a local transmitter. He confirmed all that to me and said that they use satellite to target anybody they want, and it's a very common procedure within this portion of the NSA, which is horrendous that they actually let this going on. So I think the idea of the non-consensual abuse needs to be extended to more of the covert military establishment.
And what you're hearing tonight is just a minuscule amount of what I hear on a daily basis. This is a widespread government program that is non-consensual, that is affecting many, many thousand, and it's growing daily. And the commission, I would hope, would express to Barack Obama that non-consensual, federally funded human research programs are going on and need to be addressed. And also the victims of those programs need a way to file a complaint, to talk to a commission, to talk to a task force about what is happening to them. Thank you.
First of all, the Obama administration and the European Union are pushing the BRAIN project to delineate all the pathways of the human brain. That is, every single neuron encoded on a memory disk, your personality, your memories, who you are, the essence of your soul, will be incorporated in this disk as pure information.
There's this enormous mystery waiting to be unlocked. And the BRAIN Initiative will change that by giving scientists the tools they need to get a dynamic picture of the brain in action and better understand how we think and how we learn and how we remember. In the budget I will send to Congress next week, I will propose a significant investment by the National Institutes of Health, DARPA, and the National Science Foundation to help get this project off the ground. By the National Institutes of Health, DARPA, and the National Science Foundation.
This is what they look like. There are two of them. These are from our lab in Burnaby in British Columbia. At the heart of this big box is a tiny chip about the size of your thumbnail. And on this chip resides all of the wonder and magic that makes this thing go.
I could build, I think, a soul. Here's how I would do it. I copy you exactly into a digital environment. Everything about you. So if I copy you into a machine, that copy process has all of the properties we were talking about as being a soul. First of all, it's immaterial, because copying, that's not a thing, it's a process. It's immortal, it's just like you. You can put it in any environment you want, heaven, hell, make a simulation. And everything you think, everything, from your feeling of self, to the feeling that you may have a soul or a maker, to your preference for cilantro or not, all of those things live inside a place which is dark and small and never sees the outside world.
You need to look into this stuff because it's going mainstream. It's not just us. You're going to be affected, your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren. You need to take a look at what's going on here. We may not be the most eloquent speakers, but don't thoroughly discount us.
I get tortured day and night. At night is with nightmares and all kinds of dreams that I don't want in my head. And throughout the day is my body. They brought with my neurological system, so they do anything to my body. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it makes me sick. Makes me want to throw up. Sometimes I feel I'm going to have a heart attack. They do all kinds of things like jitter, pulsating with the electromagnetic frequencies.
I became what's called a targeted individual, and my life has changed unbelievably. Gang stalking, electromagnetic weapons, directed energy weapons. Some people even came in my house and jerry-rigged electricity, and I'm being electrocuted on everything. My appliances, I've been told that they can turn your appliances into weapons against you. So it's become a nightmare. I think I've been implanted at a VA hospital. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I know I'm being watched everywhere I go, surveilled, tracked like an animal.
Often when I'm with people, the perpetrators leave me alone, perhaps to make it look like it's my imagination. And then often when I am alone, they start hurting me, they start fatiguing me.
Non-consensual experimentation is a total violation of human rights. It should be outlawed, any non-consensual experimentation. People should not have to be subjected like this, and it would be important if you could recommend to President Obama to change the regulation of informed consent to include even classified operations on persons, and to outlaw and forever ban any non-consensual experimentation in the United States.
Thank you.
I am requesting that the Presidential Commission conduct an investigative hearing on non-consensual human experimentation, and I do have credible evidence. I'm submitting 1,158 videos and pictures that's been occurring for the last 2 years.
Gang stalking and harassment was used to implement this non-consensual biotechnology application that is being used on me.
This has many names: gang stalking, mob stalking, community stalking. You're in the middle of this ridiculous, irrational impossibility that is real and is happening.
First, The Guardian revealed the National Security Agency is collecting telephone records of millions of Verizon customers.
You can surveil someone through their phones, through their certainly through their television sets.
The last year and a half, he's been systematically followed by a group of people.
Does the FBI use drones for surveillance on U.S. soil?
Yes.
New Associated Press investigation shows that the Bureau has its own little Air Force with scores of planes flying over American cities, recording video and tracking cell phone conversations.
He has a man outside of his house in a hood, like basically like a hood. It looks,
Well, this almost sounds like gang stalking or something. Have you heard of that?
Many of the things that victims of gang stalking describe are also symptoms of mental disorders.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
September 1988. It is the start of the fall semester at the University of California, Davis, where Cheryl Welch is beginning life as a law student.
I grew up in Sacramento, California. I was a receptionist at Kaiser Hospital for 10 years. I decided that I wanted to go back to school, so I went to UC Davis.
But as her studies get underway, things change.
I know what normal life is, and life became very abnormal.
It starts with her telephone.
Usually you pick up a phone, you hear dial tone, but my phone, there would be click noises. There'd be a long pause, then static.
She has it checked, but the strange noises continue. Cheryl becomes concerned. It's the first of many appliances that behave erratically in her presence.
Things in my environment. All of the electrical equipment didn't work anymore. My computer, my TV.
Her unease grows as she discovers it's not only machines that act strangely around her.
Police cars started to follow me. I had a rock thrown at my car. Somebody tried to drive me off the road. I mean, I've never had a ticket. I've never taken drugs. People in my environment were acting out of character. I was acting my normal self. And people were acting weird. People turned against me. People would stare at you. Students would swear and spit on me.
Weirder still, random strangers on the street seem to know exactly what she's thinking.
I felt like I was surveilled. I thought somebody could read my thoughts.
Cheryl's personal life falls apart as friends and family drift away. Then, she's fired from her job.
It was like shock and awe. For 3 years, it was like that. I realized, you know, this wasn't going to go away, despite my best efforts. That was a really depressing, blackest moment of my life. I just cried and cried and cried. I thought, why not just end it?
Fearing for her sanity, Cheryl seeks help.
So I went to my advisor, and I was having trouble academically, and he helped me get through this, and he was the only one that believed me.
Her advisor comes to a quick conclusion. Cheryl is the victim of deliberate and organized campaign of harassment. But who is behind it?
First, we checked out. We thought, maybe there's a psychology experiment. They're trying to stress you out. There was no psychology experiment. So I hired private investigators, and I tried to figure out if there were any bugs in my apartment. Nothing. And talking to my advisor, we both figured only the government would have this kind of control over your telephone or what you did in the privacy of your apartment.
Deciding to investigate, Cheryl gains access to government documents. They reveal the unthinkable. A top-secret experiment is subjecting everyday citizens to mind control.
Major countries have developed this secret mind control technology, especially Russia and the United States.
She's convinced the people who harassed her were under mind control and didn't even know it.
Somebody is making them do things, you know, without their knowing it.
But why choose Cheryl?
You're going to need to experiment on a lot of people. You can't do it ethically, so you're going to do it covertly, you know.
She thinks she knows what put her on the government's radar.
Before I went to UC Davis, I went to the Army recruiting office. I filled out the forms, I put in my application, but I went to UC Davis instead. And then after that was when this happened. After networking with other victims, they have that connection. Former people who applied to the CIA, former people who have relatives in the government or the CIA are often targets.
Are the minds of innocent citizens being controlled by government-sanctioned experiments? Is Cheryl Welch telling the truth, or are her claims absurd? Just another conspiracy theory that's impossible to prove.
They want you to get to a point where, like, you don't die, but, you know, you're
you're pretty messed up after the scenario, you know, until it starts again, because there's points where the scenario is going on. It's like the street theater has been activated, and then the scene is over. They're out of character. But then you start to notice, you start to notice it when you're in a room and you're with these individuals, and it's not always like that. There's different levels to it, where you're at one level and, you know, you're just going and going because, you know, you're so programmed into all this. And, you know, they wait for your I guess your defenses to come down a little bit, and then you'll start to notice it, because you'll start to see people appearing, people showing up. Oh, that's that person from last week, now they're here. And you'll start to notice them shifting around the room in really strange ways, which starts to make you feel uneasy. And then I think to myself, uh-oh, it's about to happen, isn't it?
I would hear a horn in the distance. I knew it was going to start. I hear noise in the distance. Here it comes, and then there it goes. In this big, there's a climactic event that's about to happen.
Where I end up with like my hair, you know, like I look distressed, and then it's like I might be in a hotel room, and like the hotel clerk is knocking on the door, delivering messages in envelopes, where it's almost like, you know, these people are receiving direction from somewhere else. You know, they're not acting on their own. You know, they're a part of something greater, that they are receiving direction from some higher source.
Now, do these people actually look like they know what's going on, or do they look like they're being mind controlled? Do they look like ordinary people being used as puppets, or do they look like they're in on it and they're conscious of them being in on it?
Some do and some don't.
Yeah.
Some are completely mind controlled, and they have no idea that they're participating. I was at school one day, and a person came up to me and said, you know, all those people doing those signals, right? Because they do these sort of nose signals to kind of, I've heard things like they're pointing in the direction that you're walking, or they're signaling to the next person about what you're about to do, as if they know what you're about to do before you do it. And he said, you know, they're not aware that they're doing that.
He said that was very common, and that they were using microwaves because they had taken really advanced EEG images of people in different emotional states, mapped those digital brainwave signatures, emotional clusters of people feeling different emotional states. They said that they can take those digital brainwave signatures, piggyback on a certain bandwidth of microwaves as a carrier wave, and they can target people worldwide without need for a local transmitter. He confirmed all that to me and said that they use satellite to target anybody they want, and it's a very common procedure within this portion of the NSA.
Her unease grows as she discovers it's not only machines that act strangely around her.
Police cars started to follow me. I had a rock thrown at my car. Somebody tried to drive me off the road. I mean, I've never had a ticket. I've never taken drugs. People in my environment were acting out of character. I was acting my normal self, and people were acting weird. People turned against me. People would stare at you. Students would swear and spit on me.
Weirder still, random strangers on the street seem to know exactly what she's thinking.
I felt like I was surveilled. I thought somebody could read my thoughts.
I have been under what I believe is neuro monitoring, when I can think of something and go outside and somebody will walk by me and repeat what I just said. I know I'm not crazy. Okay, regardless of what is being said, they make the victims of these programs to be diagnosed with a psychological illness to hide these crimes, because we all know that to discredit an individual, if you give them a mental illness or diagnose them with a mental illness, no one is going to believe us. No one is going to believe you or I, and this is how they are hiding these crimes.
I was aware that some people didn't know, because even friends of mine or family members could be a part of in that way, but some people are very, very aware, and they love to participate. So you'll start to notice that there's different degrees of people in this game, and some are better than others, have better intention for you. Some seem like they're doing it against their will, that they're aware that something's being used against them, and they don't want to participate, but they have to for some reason.
They have to.
Some love to participate. And some aren't aware that they participate.
Yeah, and then they can't tell you that they're participating. And you know, I've experienced that voice to skull, and that by far was the I think for me the worst part of it, because you know, I could hear my family members' voices. You know, I hear my mother crying. You know, and it you know, and it seemed like every memory that I've had, they had access to it.
I'm scared. My voices keep telling me that everyone's gonna kill me. They keep saying how my mom's gonna kill me. They keep saying how everyone is gonna kill me. Everyone's gonna kill me. Everyone's gonna kill me. I don't feel safe. My mom is supposed to come right now, but they say when she gets here, she's gonna stab me. She's not gonna stab me. Shut up. You're not right. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should like go to the park, get out of the house, because they said I'm not safe here. I don't want to do this anymore, man. It's horrible. Please stop saying that. You're telling me to go get the knife. Go get the knife.
Dominique!
Yeah? What?
Where are you?
I'm in my closet.
What are you doing in your closet?
Do you believe that a technology exists wherein speech can be encoded and transmitted via microwaves so that it can be heard inside the human skull without the use of a receiver?
I became totally immersed in hearing voices.
Are you delusional? You could actually hear voices in your head from microwave being the carrier band heating up the temporal lobes.
Whenever I hear somebody talking to me about microwaves or stuff like that being zoomed into their head.
There have been recent advances in acoustic technology which can transmit sound great distances with a very narrow target range. The long-range acoustic device is one such technology and is currently employed by both military and commercial sea vessels to deter potential attackers. In San Diego, California, Woody Norris, developer of the LRAD, describes another of his acoustic technologies known as hypersonic sound.
It's kind of like radio stations, except in this case, you don't need a receiver. To hear a radio station, I gotta have a receiver. With this, the mixing actually happens in the air, and you hear it without any other device. So if I aim it at you, and it happens to hit both of your ears, and I'm reluctant to say this, it'll be as though the sound is inside your head. This time I'll come all the way around in case you're getting a lot of echo from the room. Much of it is people pleading for help because they've been hearing voices in their head for years. And now this technology explains it. If it's my sound, turn your head, plug your ears, cover your head, sound goes away. If it doesn't, it's not me.
Hypersonic sound is perceived through the external ear of the subject, and therefore cannot be classified as V2K, the military acronym for voice-to-skull technology, which relies on a scientifically documented phenomenon known as the microwave auditory effect.
The observation of the phenomena came way back during the Second World War, and the radar operators, accidentally noticed that when they stand in front of the radar, sometimes they can hear clicks in their head, somebody by the name of Alan Fry, who had talked to some of the radar operators based on their report, and he conducted a very simple laboratory experiment. Indeed, showed that human beings can hear the radar pulses. They were not just making it up.
They wanted to know what the significance of something like this would be if man had another sensory motor input. And of course, the possibilities are staggering. Like you have another sense like sight, only you're not using it. What do you think that would imply? It means you're walking around being blind to something that's constantly giving you inputs, but you're not aware of it. Well, the first implication on that would be a weapon.
There was some concerns because the American embassy in Moscow was reported to have been bombarded by microwaves. So the speculation was that are they trying to gather intelligence, or are they trying to actually mess with the brains of the embassy personnel? So there was some experiments being conducted. Of course, then they were involved in some other things which I'm not involved in, which are classified in Nature.
Dr. Lin configured the equipment for the 1973 experiment performed at the Walter Reed Army Research Institute, wherein the experimenters successfully encoded speech and transmitted it via microwaves. The subject of the experiment, Dr. Joseph C. Sharp, was able to hear the spoken words for 1 through 10, and the results were published in the Journal of the American Psychological Association. And while Dr. Sharp verified these results during a personal interview with the filmmakers, he declined to have his voice or image recorded, stating that the technology was still too controversial.
In ordinary sound perception, sound that goes into the ear canal gets amplified by the small bones in the middle ear and then gets to the inner ear where the cochlea resides, and in the cochlea is converted to electrical impulse. But fundamentally, the physical phenomena that enables it is mechanical movement of particles. So the mechanical wave transmitted by the bones of the middle ear gets converted at the inner ear into the electrical impulses. But in the case of a microwave auditory effect, is the source is electromagnetic. So if you expose the biological tissue to a pulse of microwave energy, the tissue expands and induces a vibration. Instead of going through the middle ear, the microwave-induced vibration gets propagated to the inner ear directly, and at the inner ear is converted to electrical impulses again. And in this case, a vibration in the human tissue, if the tissue is the head, for example, will fall within the auditory range of a human subject.
All applicants for voluntary admission are held a minimum of 15 days for examination before they may be released.
Now, the question is, have I been suddenly overcome by schizophrenia? My answer to that is that I have been forced on medication for the past 4 years, and not once have any of my voices stopped.
What's really going on here? Well, we really don't have the models yet, or the belief systems, to be able to cope with these things.
People now are talking about actually direct communication, like we mentioned, sending a message through the air to a person without anybody else being aware of it. That is within the realm of possibility.
If medication does not stop these voices, and these people have, and the victims or your clients have a plausible story.
This is like another sensory motor input that man has not yet learned how to use.
Of course, you could, as I say, if you have a high enough power system, you can have a group of people subjected to the same type of a phenomena.
There's all kinds of applications there, in terms of making someone think they're crazy. To hear voices in your head, what do you think that's about? If you started hearing voices in your head and it wasn't your voice. Mind control is right at the top of the list. That obviously is what everybody would like to do, is control everybody's opinion on something, right?
I think if somebody who wants to do it, there is the potential.
Is that going to convince you? Not necessarily, but it will convince me. That convinces me. No, I do not think that I was just suddenly overcome mysteriously by voices, just out of the blue.
Dr. Persinger is saying is that virtually any mental state can be artificially injected into a human brain from an exterior source, The most frightening thing is that the means for doing this already exists in a fully operational form on a worldwide basis. Quote, the power levels for these amplitudes are similar to those associated with the signals generated globally by radio and communication system. Within the last 2 decades, a potential has emerged which was improbable, but which is now marginally feasible. This potential is the technical capability to influence directly the major portion of the approximately 6 billion brains of the human species by generating neural information within a physical medium within which all members of the species are immersed, unquote. Dr. Persinger's message, minus the jargon, is that the entire human race can be controlled through the use of electromagnetic influence piggybacked on television and radio networks or other technological means.
It's just.
I thought they told you they were going to chip you, and then they did that.
Yeah. And see, it's so hard to explain. It's hard to really put into words what the feelings are. It's so intrusive. You know, it's so intrusive, man. It has gotten to the point where I understand that I no longer have privacy. You know, like there isn't an area of my life that I have any privacy in. You know, and as a result of understanding how deep into my mind that this technology has gotten, like there is no sense of being a private person or whatever you'd like to call it. Every part of who I am is out there somewhere, you know, for people to watch. You know, you know, somebody had to be watching all of that.
Right.
So government has to know about it. How can this can't be like some rogue group operating, you know, some shadowed thing and nobody knows about it.
I go to the Van Nuys Police Department, I walk in, I say, this is my ID, this is my name. Are you following me or do you have any knowledge of me being followed? Is there a reason for you to be followed, sir? No, there's not, but people are. Who's following you? Well, I don't know who it is. Well, what are they driving? They're driving cars with dealer tags that you can't trace. Well, sir, there are a lot of dealers here. There are a lot of dealer tags. How do you know that they're following you? Very quickly, you see how crazy you sound. I've never been arrested. I've never had a DUI. Anything whatsoever. Whoever is in charge, which is so weird, is spinning this web about what a deviant, immoral, less than a human being you are. That's the only thing that I can think of that would get that many people in this collective effort to get rid of you.
This happens to you enough, believe me, you will feel stress. You will get that feeling of helplessness. This is not just like a gang of random people just doing this for, you know, like randomly or without a plan. This is procedural.
You're in the middle of this ridiculous, irrational impossibility that is real and is happening and is stranger than fiction or anything that you can imagine. And it's just terrifying. Fuck, I don't want to start crying. It pisses you off. It frustrates you beyond anything that you can imagine. And it, it changes you.
people just would not believe the suffering that people in this community endure every single day.
I've lost just about all my friends. They're afraid to talk to me. They think it's very effective. They think I'm crazy.
My family doesn't know anything about it. I don't say a word to them. I don't know if my son knows, and I don't want anything to happen to him.
Really, the most important thing that we can do for victims is to connect them with others who understand what they're experiencing, because no one else will. And isolation is really a key weapon that these perpetrators use to bring a person down to the ground, basically.
If you go to see a psychiatrist, let's say it's the first time you're meeting a psychiatrist, and you say, I'm under police surveillance, then the psychiatrist will write you off as suffering paranoid schizophrenia, and then he will give you medication. So we must assume that this is what American society believes, that all these government agencies, which normally watch over people, don't actually watch people at all. If anybody thinks that they are being watched by this government agency, then they must be crazy. It cannot possibly be true.
There really is no help at the moment officially to assist targeted individuals. They can't go to the police, they can't go to the FBI, they can't go to Congress. There is nowhere that they can go. We are having to create the issue and also the solution.
Why isn't our nation listening? This could be them. I wouldn't be surprised if most of the nation is under mass mind control.
Big culture of mind control too. MK Ultra mind control rules in Hollywood. If you don't know, Google that and look into it.
Costume contest. We do it every year. It's always a lot of fun. Let's get started. Our first caress.
Publicity about what happened from Mexico to London.
It was pretty rough, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Weird. Hello. Oh my goodness. Hello. Ew, strawberry. Yeah, it was a weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Weird. Hello. Weird. Weird.
The junior high hug dance. It's like this. You gotta make it real awkward.
That's exactly how you have to have a certain amount of distance between the bodies.
Exactly.
In junior high.
Yes, like they say in Catholic school, leave room for the Holy Ghost. Anyway, there is a lot of memories today, actually. It's a big day in music history.
35 years ago today, Elvis Presley passed away, the king of rock and roll. And as Mark Cohn says in his great song, Walking in Memphis, there's a pretty little thing waiting for the king down in the jungle room.
We were very empathetic about what happened and very sort of horrified. And so we were wondering, how is everyone going? How's Kim doing?
What? Okay.
I'm sorry, is there someone talking to you?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry about that. So I just was wondering
They
how
just
everyone's
came
doing. Hello, Courtney. Have we lost you?
All right, it looks like Courtney doesn't really want to go there with
I think
that
she's
question.
blanking. So I...
Marshall Mathers. Some of you may know him as Eminem, but he's going to join the Saturday night crew with our music intro starting next Saturday night. But folks, I want to take you to the world premiere of one of his new videos called Berserk. Take a listen.
Dada, you have one picture, Dada, please. Dada, for 8 days, you have one picture, please.
But it's been a heck of a ride, to be honest. I really can't complain. Yeah, I was I was a little down. I found out I was injured and I had to have surgery again, or with another knee. But at the end of the day, I have amazing teammates. Guys like Draymond, everybody on this team, they come over there, they wrap their hands around me like, yo.
Oh man, Johnny Sallis wants to air at the top of your screen over here, saying Jason Terry. And meanwhile, the Cavaliers give up 2. Wow.
Can you take us through what happened with the play with Jason Terry?
What play?
You ran off the court and hugged him and
oh, really? I wasn't
gave up the
paying
layup.
attention. I didn't remember that.
You didn't know they were inbounding the ball?
What play you talking about?
In the first half, you ran off the court and hugged Jason Terry, and Snell got a layup because you were off the floor.
Oh, I didn't know I was in the game. My bad.
What's with the ski mask?
Kind of, it's my alter ego. So I just, it was a gift from Ohio State. So I figured why not.
Does your alter ego have a name?
Yeah.
What is it?
I can't tell you.
They're on a mission right now. I guess they want to show the public that last year wasn't a fluke for us. We're here, we're for real team.
Speaking of showing us, 2 Chainz, you got a shot, 2 Chainz? You got a shot, let me see that shot, dog. Speaking of showing us, 2 Chainz, got a shot. Speaking of showing us, 2 Chainz, you got. Speaking of showing us, 2 Chainz, you got a shot, 2 Chainz? Got a shot, let me see that shot, dog.
That could only be the musical stylings of Victor Oladipo, who is the reigning 2-time champion of the All-Star Weekend player talent show.
You are talented. I give you a little credit on that. A lot of credit. You're very talented. I mean, you're not a karaoke guy like me, but you can actually. They call me O'Brown Eyes, right?
As a matter of fact, you both have experience singing New York, New York. His was at the Slam Dunk Contest. Yours was in Vegas.
Yes.
We had the show out there.
Well, a very, very heavy debatation tonight. We had a very let's go to Terrace and look for the bit, the head of the pit. We had a very but let's go to Terrace and look for the bit, the head of the pit.
I'm sorry. I
was in a trance.
Anderson, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Back here on American soil, bad news for the Obama administration. We have this new CNN ORC poll, which is quite a turnaround in
Brian Stelter, CNN, New York.
Brian, thank you so much. And for all of you on Twitter who are asking if I'm okay, thank you so much. I got a little hot and I passed out for a moment. I am fine. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
And so I figure I could stand here, standing enough. It's a training enough. Boy, if that's not a little embarrassing. But, so I don't get people worried standing up here too long. I think what I was going to say.
It was a wonderful, meaningful endorsement in every way, and I was very proud of it.
Did you talk about vice presidential possibilities with Senator Warren?
You guys have got to try the cold chai in every way, and I was very proud of it.
Did you talk about vice presidential possibilities with Senator Warren?
You guys have got to try the cold chai.
I've had it.
This is a video of Hillary Clinton fainting in 2012, where she suffered a concussion.
Just please don't. Okay.
Stand in front of me.
Please.
Sorry,
Please
guys.
don't. This is.
The agents have requested everybody to stay in your seats.
In covertly recorded off-air transmissions from the Bush-Clinton presidential election campaign in the 1990s, we can see that Bill Clinton was nothing more than a puppet to the puppet masters which placed him in the White House. Bill Clinton's demeanor seems to be similar to a person who is under a hypnotic trance.
$1,580 a month for their insurance coverage. This year, their premiums will cost them $2,200 a month. That adds up to $26,400 for a policy with a $13,000 deductible. But despite that awful cost,
Get him to the ground. Get him to the ground, please.
I think you are one of America's great heroes, but I continue to worry a great deal about the message we are sending in the region, about whether we're actually going to stay or not, and whether we're going to do what's necessary to succeed rather than set an arbitrary timeline. And the best way to
recess for...
We're going to recess now for a few moments.
Do you want to know a secret?
We are on a path to creating a world where man can control machine through thoughts alone. But if we can control machine, can machine also control us? Could we all become robo-humans?
Initiating satellite scan. Do you want to know a secret?
Automated computers, supercomputer software programming will manipulate the emotions and the behavior and the thoughts of everybody in the United States of America. And it can all be done remotely.
Scientists can now connect your brain to a computer, and it can all be done wirelessly. Is this a world we want? Because it's coming true.
Do you want to know a secret?
The New World Order, this entire, control grid that's supposed to be rolled out against the American people someday, I'm here to tell you that it's already here.
The victim is remotely tied to this supercomputer, which uses physical and psychological trauma, torture, to map out and reverse engineer the sensory and neural pathways of the victim's brain and central nervous system. It's brutal, brutal torture, unlike anything you could imagine. You can't negotiate with a computer. You can't compromise with a computer. You can't surrender to a computer. The computer will continue to do what it's programmed to do.
The multiple systems can focus on isolating an individual, group, community, or large population by algorithm. The directed energy weapon attack system also employs phased array cellular tower antennas as biosensors, transmitters, and receivers, capable of operation from computerized portable systems as close as neighboring locations. Satellites link the sender and the receiver. A computer multiplexer routes the voice signal of the sender through microwave towers to a very specific defined location, or cell. The receiver is located and tracked with pinpoint accuracy by their biometrics, DNA, iris, gait, facial recognition, and brainwave patterns. However, the receiver is not a cellular phone. It is the human brain. Citizens can be selected at random for horrible targeting. Using covert psychotronic, advanced electromagnetic technology beamed from state-of-the-art operations centers globally.
Better diagnostics, treatments, and a safe and effective vaccine.
COVID-19 diagnostics, therapeutics and vaccines.
Largement du développement et du déploiement rapide de diagnostics, vaccins et traitements efficaces.
Universal access to vaccination, treatment and diagnostics.
Equitable access to new COVID diagnostics, therapeutics and vaccine.
We must all work together on improving diagnostics, accelerating therapies, and ultimately developing a vaccine.
We need to make vaccines, treatment, and diagnostics accessible to everyone.
Vaccines, treatments, and diagnosis will be the most effective way to do it.
We need new diagnostics, vaccines, treatments, and an equal distribution to all.
On equitable access to diagnostics, treatments, and vaccines.
And affordability of the vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics
in order to develop the treatments and vaccines.
A frequency is emitted from a device and hits the target at the resonant frequency that target's body, brain, and DNA are already resonating at, already vibrating at. They sync up, and there is, for lack of a better term, a frequency superhighway that is connected between the device and the targeted individual. And it is upon this frequency superhighway that you can send data and information and instructions to the targeted individual, much in the same way that you can send data and instructions over fiber optic cables that power the internet, for example.
Your brain reality is your reality,
And if, in fact, I can import information into that brain and take outputs from that brain and link that to an avatar so that brain thinks that it's embodied, moving in the world and experiencing the world, can we do this? Yeah, we can do these kind of things.
And that's very much what's going on. They have, unfortunately, hacked the human mind, hacked the human brain and the human body. And it is, once that superhighway of frequency is set up between the device and the targeted individual, they can send instructions. And those instructions ride on a wave of frequency that it was tuned into the individual's resonant frequency. And then they can send instructions that manipulate thoughts, manipulate emotions, manipulate behavior, and manipulate even the vitals and so forth, the heartbeat, the breathing pattern of the targeted individual.
And they obtain remotely an EEG readout of your brainwave signature. It's called a digital brainwave imprint. And they take that digital brainwave imprint, that copy, the digital copy of your brainwave signature, and they download it, or I should say upload it back into their supercomputer, which is actually a conscious computer. And then they tie you to that conscious computer for life. How? By way of a continuous stream of energy, of electromagnetic low-frequency waves that are specifically tuned to your unique brainwave signature. Nobody else on Earth has the same brainwave signature. It's like it's unique to you alone. It's like a set of fingerprints. Nobody else on Earth has your same set of fingerprints. Well, nobody else on Earth has your same brainwave signature. And what the stream of energy is designed to do is it's designed to interface and interact based on that frequency, based on your brainwave pattern. And that's how it's able to speak to. It's able to speak to and decode the neurotransmitters in your brain, and that's how they're able to turn the brain of the mind control victim into their very own visual, verbal, and auditive communication system. It takes time. They have to build a cognitive model for the purposes of being able to do that. But that's how the technology is designed to operate.
There's a resonant frequency to DNA itself. That all matter in the universe resonates. All matter is animated by sound. And as a result, there is a frequency that is able to be measured, that measures the rate of vibration, for lack of a better term, of the DNA itself, of the human mind, and of course of the human body, and indeed everything else in nature. It is by understanding the individual resonant frequency of individual's DNA and the individual resonant frequency of an individual's mind that this technology is able to be fine-tuned to an individual. And the only reason for that is to hook up the technology to the individual.
The Human Genome Project was carried out at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, where I was a staff scientist for 5 years. They were tracking people in the lab by the electromagnetic frequency emitted by individuals' DNA. What we know about Google is that they are doing DNA surveys from space. And it seems to be on a grid system. So they're doing a survey from space, and they went down the west coast of South America and then came up the east coast, and now they're in Southeast Asia. This is part of the United Nations Agenda 21 program, tracking and identifying of humans and animals. The DNA in every living thing has a unique frequency and signal. That is what they're using, what they're focusing on, and what they're weaponizing to completely control us.
You need to look into this stuff because it's going mainstream. It's not just us. You're going to be affected, your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren. You need to take a look at what's going on here. We may not be the most eloquent speakers, but don't thoroughly discount us.